All right, we're going. We're going. We got this. Okay, we're going live.
Hmm.
Perfect. All right. F101 week 5. We have nearly a full class compared to last compared to last week. It was just me and Dave bullshitting about Japan. Um it was a good time though. You missed out on a good one.
Yeah, it
Unfortunately,
sounds
we
like
had no
fun,
one to
actually.
keep us on track. So,
Well, I
I
mean,
do
there's not
I,
much going on last week, so it
I do
was
need to issue a fact
ridiculous.
correction. I did say last week that Fernando Alonso was chasing his 34th win. That was not true. He's chasing his 33rd. I just got blinded by
Ooh.
the Rule 34 joke. I got tunnel vision.
I had a good time after that. After we ended the call, I looked it up and
It's out
I
there.
saw that you're wrong, really,
I'm
and that's
telling
what.
you, during the summer break, we're gonna do an F101 where we all pick a fan fiction and we read it and we give a book report
All right, sounds good to me. In the heat of the summer.
in the heat of the summer. So get ready for that. You can pick whatever driver. I will say it has to be a current driver. It can't be someone who no longer drives. No Brosades, no Michael Schumacher for many reasons. It's also a little fucked
I'm
up
looking
because
forward to the thumbnail for that week.
just remember it gets posted on YouTube, and as long as it passes the content guidelines, go wild.
I think it might just be a black box.
It's just a censored bar.
Just the word censored in
That would
in
be
Latin
really good.
script.
That's so good. Oh man. All right. So that'll be sometime over the summer break. Something to look forward to is the F1 the fan fiction. Uh Usually it's spelled like fan and then F1 like fiction, but the I is a one. That's the terminology. For those of you who aren't as online as I am, which might be just about everybody. Um, so the Bahrain review, Saudi Arabia preview. Um, I've made a promise to myself to keep it civil about the nation of Saudi Arabia. I will not be giving my opinions. Um, because I try to keep this to an hour.
Almost may as
um,
well have given your opinions there with that statement.
you know what? It's a non-opinion. Okay, relax.
I'm
So Bahrain review. The finishing order was Piastri, Russell, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Gasly, Ocon, Tsunoda, and Behrman. That rounded out the points. And then Antonelli not scoring for the first time this year. Albin, Hadjar, Doohan, who would have finished 10th, but he got a nasty penalty. Alonso, Lawson, Stroll, Bortoleto. Sainz did not finish the race, and Hulkenberg was later disqualified for a plank wear issue. So that's the second plank wear disqualification of the year. Or no, I'm sorry, it's the first. Lewis's was skids. It was his skid wear. I get it's all on the underside of the car. I get mixed up. So good day, Oscar Piastri and Haas. Andrew's here to celebrate. Andrew's only here, I think, to celebrate the Haas double points and their amazing weekend.
Hell yeah.
Carolina, baby, Carolina sports. Um, and then bad day would be Max Verstappen and all of Williams. And we'll get into just why that is later. But to start, we have to start with the winner. Piastri continues his 100% streak of winning from pole in his career, and he continues this year's 100% streak of winning from pole. So far, everyone who's gotten pole this year has won. He got the job done in qualifying. He pulled that lap out, got the job done on the first lap of the race, covered off everybody, did it again on the safety car reset, and just controlled the race. He got every bit of performance out of that lightning fast McLaren, but Norris, for whatever reason, couldn't. He didn't have a he admit like self-admittedly did not have a handle on the car this weekend. He qualified in sixth, uh, jumped out of his position on the race start, ended up his front axle was in front of his grid box, which Max Verstappen noticed immediately because they were lined up next to each other. But he got this one of the best race starts I've ever seen. Sixth to third, like before even the first turn. He was so fast. So, and then he basically outdrove the 5 second penalty. He got from being out of position. Although without that penalty, he might have been able to put more of in a better position to fight Russell for second, but that's not how it worked out. Um, he did towards the end of the race. After pit stops, he ended up in fourth behind Leclerc. He had to overtake him. Wasn't too difficult for him. It did take him a few laps, but That's like normal for just about everybody. But he just didn't seem confident in the car and the tires and in himself all weekend. He seemed pretty down on himself. He was really despondent after qualifying. He was like, Oscar's gonna lap everybody. I'll try and get second. Me and Nate had to talk about the way he talks about the car. Uh,
Mm.
he got a podium. He maintains the championship lead by 3 points, but I think it's a disappointing weekend for him and and especially for his fans. Lando Norris fans on Twitter, the psycho ones, are crashing the fuck out. They are so pissed. They're like, it's sabotage. McLaren sabotaged him. They want Piastri to win it all, and all this. I'm like, it's one race, and he got third. Like and he's still in the lead. So it's those people are insane. But Nate, I will open up the floor to you, given you are the McLaren master here.
I don't know how to feel about that title.
I went for the alliteration.
You didn't like that, did you?
Maestro? How about that?
Okay.
Papaya Prince.
I like
Ooh,
Papaya Prince.
ooh. Put that on a shirt. Put that on a thumbnail.
I use all my creativity up at work, okay? So give me a break.
But I do want to say while we're talking about that, first off, hats off to Oscar. Fantastic job, fantastic execution. Many comments there. Sorry, Nat rolled around from her seat to look at me. I told her I had to clock in. She didn't understand, put any context to it. But with Lando, like I was talking about, he's gotta just own he's got the fastest car right now, and he did a somewhat better job of that towards the end of some of his, but there are just a lot of like backhanded things thrown in there too, and I think the problem is he's trying so hard to like now that he's able to compete he's trying so hard to be kind of one of one when he's already one of 20 in the world. There's only 20 seats in the sport. Already by virtue of that, like you're already pretty well off, and like you gotta give it time to cement your legacy, and I think in his case he really wants to be respected as being in that top tier of driver, which of course I'm sure everyone across all the teams wants to be. Like you don't just that far by settling. But that being said, it's like now he's kind of trying to force himself into a conversation with like Max, I think, Verstappen, not our Max, uh, but it's going to take 4 World Drivers' Championships to do so, and he hasn't secured one yet. I think he's gotta continue to be patient in that sense. Uh, on the flip side of that, it's also like he's got to be with himself too. It's like, yeah, like okay, own the fact that you have the fast car, but also be like you're human, you make mistakes. It'd be easy to make a mistake when you're pushing a vehicle, 200 miles an hour. So and I mean, again, when only 19 other people in the world at any point are doing the same job you do, it kind of implies a certain level of difficulty. I mean, overall, yeah, that was just at least he owned to like there wasn't anything egregious, outside that happened. He didn't show up in quality. It hurt him in the race. He kind of made other errors. I do think he did a great job bouncing back from those errors. As best as he could. He took the 5-second penalty and was able to essentially outdrive that. It sucks that such a thing and I don't want to say such a small thing because it clearly like it has an influence, um, on the outcome of the race. But it's like imagine if he didn't start over his grid box and he has the start that he did. And I think he was really resolved to try to start making up for those mistakes that he had during qualifying there. So that kind of sucks. Hoping to see him bounce back. That's all for now.
Who do you have as the number one driver at McLaren? Who's your number one?
number one is Lando on the grounds of tenure. First off, I mean, he was there when they were, struggling in the mid pack. Like when there, they were not very competitive. And again, like he was also to get them their first he was the first one to get the victory. So and then of course like last year or last season I should say, he was the one kind of like cemented like okay like it's competitive again. Not that Oscar didn't have any contributions to that or anything. I mean the Oscar's freaking crushing it and he's done to crush it since he's got there. I do think over time, or I should say, over time, it's very possible. I mean, it's very possible right now to make an argument for as the number one driver. I think, in my eyes, like I give that to Lando just a little bit long. Of course, like it's proven otherwise. Like, at the end of the day, you got to get in the seat and you got to drive the drive to prove that and to earn that. So, if Oscar's driving better, more consistently, it's got to go to Oscar. Because I think the overarching goal is like, okay, we managed to steal constructors last year, right? Goal this year is to both constructors and, ideally have one of our two drivers steal the drivers championship. Whichever one that may be. It's also again still early. Okay, like that gap between Lando and Oscar isn't as big now. So I still give it to Lando. I mean, I think does he not still technically have like a 3-point lead
Yeah, it's 3 points.
over? Yeah, so it's like technically like right now it's still Lando, but I mean, can literally change this week. If it changes this week, I go okay. Well, I hope for Lando to win again. Like I've been rooting for him, longer than I've been rooting for Oscar. But I'm certainly not going to be like super upset or depressed like if Oscar were to come top. Because I guess technically either is a win for me, but the biggest win for me would be Lando taking World Drivers Championship and McLaren winning constructor.
All
I have
right.
a historical question.
Uh-oh.
Has it ever come down to a point where it's like drivers championship it's up in the air, but it's two drivers from the same team?
Yep. Yeah, 2016 Mercedes. They were so overpowered that year. Rosberg and Hamilton. Honestly, 2014, 15, and 16 Mercedes. Hamilton took it 14, 15. Rosberg took it 16. They were so much faster than everyone else. They had a secret third engine mode called party mode that was so fast both drivers were not allowed to use it because Mercedes was worried that they would get accused of cheating and the FIA would ban it. They were only allowed to use it if they qualified, if something went wrong in qualifying or they had a penalty or something and they had to climb through the field. But then they would both use it against each other anyway. And Nico Rosberg won it in 2016. It was intense. I mean, Toto threatened to fire both of them if they kept crashing into each other. And Rosberg is to date the only person to ever beat Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery. This year that might change this year with Leclerc. But even then, they were in like championship winning. Like the recent Lewis's last year's at Mercedes, they weren't in a championship winning car, so it's hard to judge it the same. But yes, that has happened. And I think it's happened a few other times, but that's the most recent and probably the most notable.
So I have a historical question.
Mm-hmm.
When did Saudi Arabia get so into sports?
Well, they saw the money that sports makes, and they're like, "Oh, we'd like some, please." And we're gonna try and rehabilitate our image with sports. We're gonna host the World Cup and the Olympics and F1, and everyone's gonna love us again.
And golf and WWE.
Oh yeah, and golf and WWE. I forgot about the WWE thing. That didn't go very well. Uh, I believe the crowd wasn't as into it. So yes, it has. Andrew, to answer your question, um, yes, it's
It
happened.
has happened before.
Dave, to answer yours, you know.
Money.
Look up the HRC.
Yeah, exactly. So and Nate, and one thing that I want to piggyback off of what Nate said is I still think Lando is kind of used to being the underdog, and it's hard to shift out of that when he's no longer the underdog. And I do think some of his statements about the car not being as fast and whatever, when it very much is, um,
It's a beast of a machine. Like, come on,
yeah,
give it its. You can't
give the
keep
engineers
credit
some
everybody.
credit, man. Can you
Yeah,
imagine
no,
being an engineer and you're
everybody
like,
in
we
the
have the fastest
entourage.
car, and Lando's like,
Yeah,
it sucks, and you're like, damn, bro. So I do think some of it might be a little bit of like habit, just from being the underdog for so long. When he won in last year, his first race, he was still kind of the underdog, and so uh, I think that's important to note.
Mhm.
So that's the McLaren segment of the show. Uh, and McLaren's direct rivals basically this year are still Red Bull. And speaking of Red Bull, at least for now, they're rivals. Verstappen and Red Bull were in hell all race. For Red Bull was in pure hell. Verstappen qualified seventh. Tsunoda qualified 10th. They both had a god awful launch off the grid. The car wasn't fast. They couldn't control it. They had a pit stop issue. The lights that let a driver know they're safe to release after their pit stop were broken. So both Verstappen and Tsunoda had a slow first stop, and then Verstappen had a tire issue on the second stop. Horrible showing in the pits for a team with a notoriously tight and fast pit crew. Um, the silver lining is that Tsunoda scored a point for the team, and then the opposite of the silver lining is that Verstappen's management is furious with the car. And right after the race, Red Bull had an all hands senior meeting. Like right after, they're like, "All right, we gotta talk about this." So, Yuki scored, got up into ninth. My boy,
Mm.
him and Sainz tussled a bit, which kind of ended up being disastrous for Sainz. They had a collision. It was found that both were equally at fault and therefore a racing incident, and so no one was at fault. If you watch the replay, Yuki lost control of the car. It kind of just slid. It ran into Sainz. Sainz, however, was not giving Yuki, if he yielded more room, which he easily could have, he wouldn't have been in the situation. So it all depends. If you have an objective view out of it, 50-50. If you're a Yuki stan like I am, it's all Sainz's fault. Fuck that guy. And then if you're a Sainz fan, Yuki is a terrorist and he needs to be out of the sport immediately. So, but ultimately there was no penalty for either driver at that moment. However, Sainz was then given a 10-second penalty for forcing Antonelli off the track. Uh, he served the penalty and then retired the car. And actually, the damage was way worse than I realized. Like when they showed the damage, it looked really bad. And then Sainz got a three place grid drop for Saudi Arabia because the FIA was like, he retired before he served the penalty, and everyone's like, that's not true. And they were like, oh yeah, oopsies. He doesn't have a grid drop. We're stupid. um. So
I'm glad it's just one mistake. The FIA didn't make any other mistakes this weekend, right?
No, they've never made a mistake ever, actually. I don't know if you knew that. They're flawless, the FIA. Um, Williams in general, not just Sainz, had a horrible weekend with the DNF. Albon couldn't score points. He didn't feel in control of his car all weekend or really their performance. They were just struggling. They're on the struggle bus. Albon didn't seem as mad on the radio this week, but that can always change. But so Williams
Some PR
had
training.
yeah. Williams had a rough time, which is surprising for a team that started pretty strong, and a team that was expected to do well because they got good lap one pace, and it seems this year qualifying is really important. But they didn't they couldn't get it done. And then speaking of struggling, Racing Bulls are still on the struggle bus as well. Um, they sorry, I lost my place in the document. There we are. They neither driver scored points, and Lawson got two different penalties for causing collisions. And I believe this is probably since the car probably has some of the same quirks and issues as the Red Bull, making it harder to drive on this track. So it makes sense that neither were good this weekend. Um, Obviously, the Red Bull in the hands of Max Verstappen is better than the Racing Bull, but the Racing Bull seemed better than the Red Bull, but now it seems like it's not. And it's kind of hard on Lawson, who's now had two races and he's still not doing well. Um, uh, but I don't think they're not gonna replace him or anything. So hopefully he'll be able to bounce back throughout the year. Because I still imagine, even though the media, like the TikTok page and the Instagram, and like he seems like he's pretty happy, I'm sure he's still probably pretty mentally destroyed after getting booted from the Red Bull so soon, and seeing all the things people are saying about him. Um, and so he's gotta bounce back, and hopefully get a handle on the racing bulls, which seemed to be a really good car in qualifying, at least at the start of the year. And qualifying really matters this year more than other years, or at least more than recent years, we'll say. Um, and then Russell beat the does nothing, gets third place allegations. He got a very deserved second place. He did everything and got the second place. He had all sorts of technological issues in the car. At a point, his whole dashboard just shut off. They were like on the radio, and they're like, "Hey, George." He was like, "Yo, what's up?" And they were like, hey, just so you know, in a few laps, the dashboard might just shut off. Just keep driving. It's okay. Uh, you're just not going to have a dashboard. You're not going to be able to see how fast you're going. You're not going to be able to see like what gear you're in. You just got to thug it out." His GPS transponder broke, so no one knew where he was during the race unless you physically saw him. So we're watching the timetable, and you just see Russell go from second all the way down to 20th. I'm like, oh my god, he crashed. And they're like, no, it's just broken. No one knows where he is. I saw a picture of it, of like the racetrack and like the GPS they use, and it's just dots, and everyone's on the track, and then Russell is like 20 miles away from the track. um, so he nearly got a penalty for accidentally activating DRS when he shouldn't have. It was determined that it was a result of the tech issues, and it didn't give him a sporting advantage. I think it was up for less than a second. Um, uh, and so like Mercedes pled their case, and FIA determined that he doesn't deserve a penalty, which I think is fair. Even though it prevented me from getting a perfect weekend and pick the podium. Um, but it also kind of messed with McLaren, because they were trying to pass him or catch up to him, and they were like, "We don't know where the hell he is, so you can't use DRS unless you're within a second. And if you don't know where he is down to a second, like the hundredth of a second, you can't activate DRS safely without getting a penalty." And so Mercedes was like to Lando, they're like, "Don't activate it until we tell you to. So we need to be absolutely sure." And ultimately, Lando couldn't get the overtake, and Russell really deserved that second place. But on the other side of the garage, Antonelli lost his point streak in a weekend he'd probably like to forget. Qualified fourth, dropped down to 11th, but he did do 3 pit stops, and Merck's strategy really did feel like it was out to shoot him in the foot. I don't know why they did 3 pit stops. They didn't need to do 3 pit stops. They probably could have gotten away with 1. And they pitted him right before the safety car, and they pitted him again during the safety. It was just a mess. Poor Antonelli. He got kind of screwed over. He kind of got Ferrari'd a little bit. Speaking of Ferrari, we'll just jump down a little bit. Had another bit of a quiet weekend, which they need, because for right now for Ferrari, a quiet weekend is great. They were really good on the medium tires. They were the best on the medium tires, but they couldn't replicate that on the softs or hards. But quiet weekend is good for them, given their recent loud weekends being terrible. And a 4th and 5th brings them closer to Red Bull in the standings and closer to podiums. They keep this up and keep improving, we can see them make a run towards the end of the season, kind of like they did last year. Specifically with Ferrari, Lewis said that he really felt like he made a lot of progress with understanding the car, what he needs to do with his driving style to get the car where it needs to be, and to fight for podiums. So it was a good weekend for Ferrari, even though they didn't really make a lot of headlines. And now, the moment Dave's been waiting for. Alpine had an amazing qualifying from Gasly and Doohan, who qualified 5th and 11th. Gasly brought it home in 7th and had to hold off Ocon, his best friend forever, for a lot of the race. In the Haas that was faster. It was a strong performance with him. Highs them with Sauber in the standings, Dave's arch nemesis. Doohan is still waiting for his first points, and while the race wasn't the cleanest, because he was not he was knocked out for a 5-second penalty for track limits, he showed some real speed and talent. He was on it this race. But will it be enough? It's unclear. His future is still up in the air. No one knows anything. Alpine is not saying anything. But they're testing all their reserve drivers all the time, so who knows? But the big story obviously is the Alpine points. Ties him with Sauber. It puts him in a great place.
It would have been in the lead if it wasn't for that dang Max Verstappen on the last turn,
Yeah.
just making Gasly look slow.
Yes, on the final turn, Verstappen overtook Gasly. I think Gasly probably had a little bit of like PTSD from racing against Max in the Red Bull. He saw the Red Bull behind him, he got scared a little bit, and he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna let him go. But
Max
also, the
just
Red Bull was way faster at that moment.
absolutely mogged him. It would have been the perfect weekend if Gasly could have kept his spot P6 and Jack would have gotten his first points.
It would have been,
Perfect
but
weekend for Alpine.
I think this coming week might be if they can keep it clean, they might have a good chance for points, and I'll discuss why later. But before we do that, we got to go to their rivals last year. Right now, their rivals are uh, Sauber, but this year or last year, the rivals were Haas, who had an amazing weekend. Behrman drove from 20th to 10th, should have been driver of the day, but Hamilton got it for no reason. Ocon went from 14th to 8th. They got a double points finish. They had the best weekend out of every team in the race. They passed Williams. They're fifth in the constructors. So congratulations to Haas. Carolina boys get it done. Neither of the
Let's
drivers are
go.
from Carolina. Let's be clear.
They're honorary. As long as
Honorary.
they're on the team.
I love that. I love that. They had an amazing weekend after a kind of up and down start to the year. Behrman's really. Me and Dave talked about this last week. He asked me what rookie is impressing me the most, and I said Antonelli and Behrman. And I think Behrman's, impressing me even more at this point. Making the gritty. You lost again to the gritty Haas. So congratulations to both of them, Andrew. Congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you,
Fifth in
sir.
the standings was for Haas unfathomable a few years ago. So Iao, I don't know how to pronounce it. Komatsu, the team principal, way better than Steiner. I know Steiner's a meme and everyone loves him, but man, he's doing such a better job. Um, and then to round out the rest of the teams, Aston Martin and Sauber at the bottom of the race classification. Big surprise there. Um, Stroll is letting me down, I will say. I thought we were going to have a Stroll resurgence, and I was wrong. I'll admit that. But I still have hope. Okay? I still have hope. I don't know why I'm pulling for Stroll so much this year. I just want it. I don't know why. I just want it. Um, but they're not good. And they will probably be, I could see them finishing 9th and 10th, Aston Martin and Sauber, 9th and 10th, respectively, at the end of the year. Unless Aston Martin gets their shit together, but they probably won't. They are apparently already very focused on next year with the new regs. This week's certified Ferrari moment was the Red Bull pit crew and pit stop technology. So for the second week in a row, the certified Ferrari moment does not go to Ferrari. Everyone clap for Ferrari. I don't think anyone's mic picked that up, but that's okay. And then for the pick the podium stack, G1 Astri, baby. Max is 100% when picking Piastri to win this year. And the only other person to pick Piastri to win was Sam, and that was in Japan, and Oscar got third. So that's the Bahrain review. Any other final thoughts before we move on?
I hope that Sauber and Aston Martin do not get any more points this entire year. I hate them both.
Oh, man. And yet you picked Alonso to win.
I did. I do love Alonso. I wish he wasn't on Aston Martin.
You and everyone else, buddy. You and everyone else.
I have a term question. Is the midfield anything not like is the midfield anything that's not like leading the pack? Like, is there anything for the worst?
It changes per year.
Okay.
This year, I would say it is the midfield would be Haas, Williams, and Alpine. I would say Haas, Williams, Alpine, and who am I missing? Well, because there's the
Williams?
top four.
Haas, Williams.
Okay, those aren't midfield. Red Bull, I almost said Verstappen. Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari, and then Sauber and Aston Martin definitely aren't in the midfield. So it's Haas, Williams, Alpine. Who am I missing? Why am I being
Racing
stupid?
Bulls.
Racing Bulls. Thank you. How did I? Dude, Yuki's on Red Bull. I forgot V Carb existed. Sorry about that. So that I would say is the midfield is Haas, Williams, Racing Bulls, and also maybe because also Racing Bulls is so far behind. They're also they're at the very bottom of the midfield. So Haas, Williams, Alpine, and Racing Bulls, I say, would be the midfield. Midfield is usually fighting for fifth.
Okay, I see. So LP needs to get their
Pick it
shit
up.
together
Yeah.
to get back
And
into the midfield.
Alpine's only in the midfield because of their performance last year. So, yes, that would be the midfield. There's the front runners, the midfield, and then obviously you've got Sauber and Aston, who just kind of are existing right now. So, all right, that's Bahrain. Breaking news before we go into Saudi Arabia, and I say this with so much disdain. Oh boy, the Max Verstappen is going to leave Red Bull rumors are back. Immediately after the race, Max Verstappen is leaving Red Bull. Max Verstappen's going to Mercedes in 2026. Max Verstappen's going to Aston Martin. Max Verstappen's going to McLaren. Blah blah blah. Max Verstappen himself said that he's staying with the team. So who knows? Apparently, the performance clause, there is an escape clause in his contract where if he drops below third in the driver's standings, he can boot out of Red Bull, go wherever the hell he wants, which is really funny for Russell, who is constantly rumored to get replaced by Verstappen. So, like, Russell is in a no-win situation. He doesn't do well enough, he gets replaced by Verstappen because Mercedes is a faster car and he decides to jump ship. Or Russell does too well, boots Max out of third in the Drivers' Championship, and then gets replaced by Max because he activated his exit clause. So that's the George Russell paradox there. But again, Max is like, I'm sticking with the team at least through 2026. So it's just stupid rumors for clicks. I read a lot of the rumor articles, and they're all like first of all, every website is just riddled with ads for trying to get me to go to a chiropractor. And then um and none of them are like based on anything, so it's all speculation, and it's stupid speculation, but I had to put something for breaking news, and so that's what I decided to do. So Saudi Arabia qualifying is Saturday at 1 p.m. and the race is Sunday at 1 p.m. I don't think I will be able to watch either live. I'll be helping Andrew move on Saturday, and I'll be with my family on Sunday for Easter. I might make them watch my family watch, but we'll see. um it is in
Throw the
Saudi.
race on while we're moving stuff.
Andrew, if we throw the qualifying on while we're moving, I'm not helping qualifying. I'm not helping moving. I'll take a project manager role.
I thought that's already what you were gonna do.
I know I need to buy cargo shorts. So yeah, Saudi Arabia closing out the triple header is a street circuit that requires you to drive on a knife's edge, fitting for a track shaped like one. Seriously though, this track is brutal. It's got walls and the tight margins that Monaco has, but it's way faster. It's not an easy track. The reason why I'd say like this is a potential if Alpine keeps it clean to get another double points finish, I'd expect there to be a huge crash here. If there's ever a race to expect a crash, it's here. It's a punishing track. It's super fast. It's going to be tough on everyone. Rookies have raced here before in F2, but only Behrman has been here in an F1 car. His Ferrari debut last year, he subbed for Sainz. He became the youngest driver to ever have his debut with Ferrari. Sainz had appendicitis at the time. He's just like me for real. Behrman got 7th in what was like the best race debut like in recent memory. But this year he's in a Haas, which isn't as fast as the Ferrari. But given Ferrari's recent woes, who knows? The Haas might be a safer bet to get points. So, but yeah, I can see there being a pretty nasty, maybe not nasty is not the right word, but I can see a pretty involved crash, getting a lot of people because there's not a lot of room to avoid said crash if it happens. And you know, it had like last year. Last year was pretty clean. Lance Stroll put it in the wall. And his engineer the only information his engineer at the time had was that there was someone in the wall. It was like, yo, Lance, watch out, there's someone in the wall. And Lance was like, you fucking idiot, it's me. I'm in the wall. So
I am worried that the big crash will be caused by Jack Doohan. He has been a little bit prevalent for crashing and a little bit scuffs. So I'm very concerned after a pretty good race this past week that he's going to have a terrible one this week.
I would not be surprised if it's a Red Bull, given that it's been very tricky to get a handle on. And I hate to say it, but I would not be surprised if it was the Red Bull, especially Yuki. But he's been good. He's been clean. But cracks were starting to show in Bahrain. So we'll see. I think obviously a rookie is a safe bet. Maybe even Bortoleto just because the Sauber is god awful. But maybe it's too slow to crash. Um, so, but regardless of who, crash speculation, McLaren are very obviously very soundly the team to beat. Norris needs to do well here, reestablish himself as the early championship favorite again, especially with Piastri breathing down his neck. How McLaren will handle their two number one drivers thing is impossible to predict. But qualifying is going to be super important. I would not be surprised to see whoever gets pole wins the race. It's not impossible to pass on this track. Ask Max Verstappen, who's done it many, many times. But it is difficult. So another Suzuka situation isn't really impossible. But I think this is going to have higher tire degradation than Suzuka. So pit stops will be more important. But McLaren, the early favorites. And Red Bull, my rivals, excuse me, need to get a handle on things if they want to compete for the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen. I don't think anyone's expecting Yuki to compete. I mean, I am. I'm expecting Yuki to win every race from here on out, but that's different. But they obviously want Verstappen to compete. The car just isn't there, and it hasn't been there all year. And it's only because it's Max Verstappen that he's up in third in the drivers. But Russell's only 6 points behind. And Russell's been so consistent this year. He's found his form in a Mercedes that isn't the fastest car on the grid, but he's shown his strength. He's shown his consistency. And while a win may still be out of reach due to McLaren's speed, you can't count him out for a podium finish ever, I don't think. He's been tearing it up in that Mercedes. He's been super consistent. And I think that's going to come into play this weekend.
Do we know what the
Tsunoda,
weather's going to be like?
it's Saudi Arabia,
Saudi?
so it's going to be
Sorry.
hot and clear. It's not going to rain, probably. That'd be insane if it rained. It rained in Bahrain in testing, I guess. Anything can happen, but I wouldn't bet on it. If anything, there's probably going to be another missile strike 5 miles away from the track like it happened a few years ago, but, what are you going to do? We still race. They still race. There was a missile strike the day before the race right near the track, and the FIA was like, you know what? It's safe enough to race.
Safe enough.
But, I mean, nothing happened, thank God. I think Latifi crashed, and that was about it. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for Latifi to catch a stray, but
Oh, that's a big podium this week. How'd you know?
I don't even know how that would even happen. I wouldn't even get back into a car. Kind of like joins early.
Even the racing bulls are like, this is the guy worth investing in. Let's get Liam Lawson out here. Put Latifi in.
He replaces Stroll. They're both Canadian. No one notices a difference.
He puts on a fake stroll wig, so it's not, no one can tell.
Yeah, but a really bad one.
I mean, have you seen Lance Stroll's hair?
That's true. So yeah, we'll see. Tsunoda is still learning. He's giving valuable feedback about the Red Bull, which the team has been very thankful for. This is going to be a big test for him. If he qualifies well, which he can, then he'll be in a good position for a second points finish, which Red Bull really needs. They just need to keep chugging along, keep getting the confidence up, and hopefully fix the car. Rookie talk. I feel like I just got to make a dedicated rookie talk section for every race preview. Antonelli, Doohan, and Hadjar be looking to bounce back after a poor outing in Bahrain. All of them kind of did not have a great race, considering recent performances, Hadjar as well, and then Doohan obviously he was so close, and then the track limits got him. Behrman looking to replicate his success from his Ferrari debut while riding the high of his amazing drive in Bahrain. And I have this, and this is exactly what I wrote word for word. Bortoleto will be looking for any sort of hope, pace, and luck in the Sauber. We'll see what he does. Would not be surprised if he's dead last. What was that, Nate?
I said these.
Yeah, man, it's tough out there. It's
That's
tough out
brutal.
there for Bortoleto. But the performances speak for themselves, and I don't think he's a bad driver. I just think the Sauber is a bad car, and I don't like their sponsor. But we don't have to get into that. Lawson, the other kind of rookie, not a rookie, has not done well in the Racing Bulls, even though he's expected to not only do better than his Red Bull stint, but to outperform Tsunoda after the swap. He hasn't happened. He hasn't outperformed Tsunoda in the Red Bull. He hasn't outperformed Tsunoda's performance in the Racing Bulls. It could just be getting used to the car and Racing Bulls, admittedly, very bad strategy. he needs to show what he's got, and not just for the team, like I mentioned earlier, but for himself. I think he's got to race. He's got to, get his head back. I don't think that I still think he's a little rattled after what happened. As much as the media team is making it seem like he's not. Um, so it sucks. Red Bull's brutal. And if he really has, I mean, he has speed, but it's all a matter of can he bring it out. Um, Ocon and Gasly, the childhood friends and rivals, coming off of strong weekends in similarly paced cars, although the Haas is faster, are going to aim to continue that success that they've had from Bahrain. Both have done well here in the past. Actually, both have done really well here in the past. But Ocon does have a slight edge in results. I don't remember I don't remember what happened in the races with both of them, but I just looked at the results. But they have both done very well here. So they should bring a good show for the midfield, which we now know is Alpine, Haas, the Racing Bulls, and Williams. We learned that today. And speaking of Williams, they need a big recovery weekend here. This triple header has not been kind to them. Japan was bad. Bahrain was bad. They really don't want to get another bad race. Sainz is still struggling with the car. And when he has a chance for points, it just gets ripped away from him. Not always his fault, but it does get ripped away from him. And Albon had a strong start to the year, and so did the team, but it feels like they've been flailing all this whole triple header, so they got to bring it this weekend. And then I have Sauber is bad and slow, and so is the Aston Martin, and nothing exciting happens with either of these teams anymore. So I have nothing to write about. So that's my statement on the bottom two teams. Fernando, I like Fernando, but he's got to do something exciting. So that's the brief Saudi Arabia preview. There's no upgrades coming for any team. All the major upgrades are coming in Imola, which is a few weeks away. Usually, teams get major upgrades the first week of the first European race because it's cheaper to fly all their parts from their UK-based factories over to another country in Europe as opposed to the Middle East or Asia or Australia or America. So Imola will be the first big upgrade. So that'll probably be the first big change in the pecking order. And I believe I don't know if Aston Martin or Sauber are even going to get anything. I think they might have both teams maybe focus solely on 2026. I know Aston Martin is because they have Adrian Newey, who designed Red Bull's championship winning cars, working full time on the 2026 project. So we'll see what happens with them. But, I would not, if they finish 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, wouldn't be surprised. So, and that would actually be that'd be a good result for Lawson too, because those 4 positions would be taken.
He's got his name on one of them. He does.
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I don't want it. I don't want it to do that poorly. I just don't want him to outperform Yuki. So, but it has been a rough time for him, a rough season so far. So that's Saudi. Any questions about Saudi Arabia before we go to the pick the podium, which I have not set up at all? Oops. Someone ask a question.
About Saudi Arabia.
The race.
So who's gonna crash first? I'm gonna bet it's one of the people with 0 points. We got Bortoletto, Fernando Alonso, Liam Lawson, and Jack Doohan. I'm gonna put my money on Bortoletto. I think he's gonna try way too hard, and he's gonna run into a wall.
All right. Well, then thank you for filling the time. I've now set up the document, so anyone can look at it. All right. Andrew,
Yep.
do you have your podium set?
I think I do.
Speak now.
Oh boy.
If you change your mind before new rule, if you make your podium and before, because Dave always goes last, if you change your mind before Dave finishes his podium picks, you can change it. New rule.
Okay. I'm gonna go Norris, Russell, I took Leclerc in 3. I don't like that. Last week. Let's go Verstappen at 3. Why not?
Ooh,
Give him a
okay.
recovery.
All
Give
right,
him a
all
recovery
right.
run.
Okay. I've been very on the fence about who I'm putting first. I think I'm gonna go Norris, Piastri, Russell. That is my podium pick.
Is the new strategy just papaya 3?
You want me to read you the Andrew's first 14 first place picks from last year?
Yeah,
Ready?
I
Verstappen, 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 Verstappen.
Go with who's hot, man.
You don't go with who's hot. You go with who's in the best car.
I always go with who's hot. Look at my picks.
I will say, I mean, at least like Gasly, Leclerc, you are going with who's hot. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm saying.
Alonso, Tsunoda, Nate, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc. He just typed
Leclerc
it
in
in.
third, we trust.
Leclerc third, trust. We all trusted Leclerc third last week. Look what happened.
You know something though. Last year, Leclerc got fourth, and he finished fourth this year.
He's going to finish fourth again.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
In Saudi last year, he finished third. This is the race he finally breaks podium, gets third.
All right. We'll see. I don't agree.
He was following
Andrew,
the trend from last year. I think he's on that from last year. You know, we're
Who-
talking about the McLaren pattern. You know, Piastri has a great race, and then like something stupid happens, and it kind of knocks him off. You know, I also think Norris is going to rebound really well. Those are my three.
Oh, okay. So just
And that's my
to
reasoning.
continue with your pattern, Max Verstappen won and Sergio Perez got second last year. Do you think that's going to happen again?
No,
I'm just kidding. I'll give you a hard time.
Racing Bull.
Yeah, you put Checo in the Aston Martin just for fun. Checo and Alonso, the two old men. All right, Sam had Piastri, Russell, and then Leclerc. And then Dave.
So I have a strategy this week. It kind of goes against all my morals, but we're in Saudi Arabia, so it's okay.
Oh God, I don't. Hey,
So
can I ask a question before you start?
Yeah.
Am I gonna have to stop my stream very suddenly?
No.
Okay.
In third, we have Nico Hulkenberg.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see where you're going. Can I maybe sway your opinions a little bit here before you continue? Aston Martin's title sponsor is a Saudi Arabian oil company.
Well, that's exactly what I was going for the top two.
Okay.
I'm looking through the drivers and the teams, and I see a big Aramco in my face. Saudi Arabia. It's under Saudi Aramco. The only question is who's in first. We don't know the answer to that. It's not Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll second.
Okay.
Fernando Alonso is in first.
So twice in a row you've got Alonso. Self-proclaimed
Yeah,
Aston Martin hater, by the way.
Yeah, oh, it's Saudi Arabia. It's a special time.
So you want to hear a funny story about Alonso in Saudi Arabia?
Oh gosh,
It
was an awful opening if I've ever heard.
It was either last year, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. I don't think it was last year. Fernando, it was 2 years ago because Fernando was getting podiums in the Aston Martin. Or 3 years ago, whatever Fernando was getting podium. No, it was 2 years. Whatever. He's in third place. He's on the podium. Gets a penalty, 5-second penalty. Boots him off the podium. Puts someone else up there for one of the Ferraris, I think. And then in Saudi Arabia, but then this is before. So it gives it to Russell. I'm remembering. So it gives it to Russell, and then that's after. Mysteriously, the FIA had some talks with the FIA president, and Aston Martin, who again their title sponsor is a Saudi Arabian oil company. Fernando's penalty mysteriously disappears, and he gets his third place back.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's going to get bad oil besides the Saudi Aramco team, and I guess kick Sauber because they're, I don't know, Why not?
Morally bankrupt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, S1's also sponsored by Coinbase, and they seem, Coinbase and gambling seems to be.
Well, Haas is sponsored by MoneyGram.
I don't know that one, so
It's another crypto.
they're safe because I'm stupid mostly.
All right. Well, that is everyone's pick the podiums. We'll see. Will Dave finally get his first points of the year? I don't know with this one. Nate, I will say that if we're going down together, the only thing.
Yeah.
So if you get a perfect weekend, I still have a 15-point lead. Or I have a 5-point lead. You cut the lead down to 5 points. I'm sorry. You'll gain only 15
That's
points.
right, because my
it's
picks would also be the same as yours. Yeah.
yeah. So we go down together here. Which makes me happy.
We
Knowing that no matter
we
what
tied
happens,
together.
I keep my lead this week. At least one more week on top for your old pal Max. So that is F101. Thank you everyone for being here. We're not doing it next week. There's no race next weekend. We'll be back after for Miami, and Dave has got a great thumbnail cooking up for that one. We've already been in discussion, and we'll reveal that in time. So thank you.
Reveal was the operative word. Yeah.
Reveal is a good word for it. All right. Thank you and good night.